Podcast where I discuss all things music and how it affects my life. And today I am joined by the lead singer / guitar player of the band The Shape, Brian Almeida. This is a great conversation just about music, talking about horror. We actually get pretty deep into the horror part of the podcast, and as well as just talking about his journey into music, how his father, kind of kickstarted things by being a disc jockey and stuff like that. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this show. And before I get started, man, I just want to say thank you to anybody who's listening to this show. If this is your first time listening to this show, man, whatever platform you're listening it to on, please follow. Please tell me what I could be doing better. Please tell me anything you'd like to hear or you'd like me to talk about. And if you'd like to be a guest on my show or have a show topic, hit me up on Instagram and Twitter at Podcast of Blue, I apologize, or on Facebook at Blue Presents a Podcast, man. Once again, just a great conversation, man, and looking forward to hearing some feedback from everyone. And tell me your favorite horror movie. If anybody's into horror, tell me what some horror movies I should be watching. Me and my wife love horror movies. But before we get started, man, listen to my man AJ Pelletier on the reasons why you should be listening to the Roads We Travel podcast.
My name is AJ Pelletier, and I'm here to talk to you about my podcast, The Roads We've Traveled. It's a bi-weekly podcast where every episode I interview guests about their lives, their upbringings.
My father was, your stereotypical Irish drunk.
Their mental health.
Like serious depression, very bad anxiety. I can look, as a kid, I can see where it showed up.
And whatever else they have going on in their lives. It's a heartfelt show where we share intimate details about our lives, our joys, our struggles, and our passions. And we like to have some laughs along the way, too.
Are you wearing a scarf?
Oh my God!
I love it. I love it. You have no idea how funny that is, AJ.
We all have our own struggles and battles we deal with. My show is to help you out and show you that you are never alone. So why don't you take this journey with us? Subscribe to us and tell a friend. We are available on all major podcast networks, and we're also available on YouTube. So what are you waiting for? Let's hit the road together.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Blue Presents a podcast where I discuss all things music, and I am joined today by Brian Almeida of the band The Shape. What's going on, Brian?
What's up, my man? How are you doing?
Tired like the rest of us. Just tired, man. I got to be honest, like I told you before. So
I'm tired. I'm in that tired, like hazy brain state, but my body is like, I have energy and I'm awake.
I'm alive.
It's hot as fuck on a Saturday.
Yeah, man. And it's supposed to be some thunderstorms in the afternoon. But anyways, man. So just like everybody who joins my show, my very first question is, what are your top 5 artists, brother? Or bands?
Top 5 artists. Numero uno is Guns N' Roses, because both because it's my favorite record of all time is Appetite for Destruction. Always was. My first memory of life, like in my head as a being, was dancing around and my dad showing it to me, who was a DJ for like 35, 40 years, something like that, on the radio. And he happened to work at a hard rock radio station, got it before it came out. And I was like super enthusiastic about it. There was like, my parents had taped it, and I remember seeing it from my dad. And it's still my favorite record of all time. I can't get tired of it. Some songs like Sweet Child of Mine and stuff I do, but like that record's just fantastic. And I love all the rest of their stuff, even Chinese Democracy. I'm kind of like a sucker fan when it comes to it. But after that, Pink Floyd for sure. Just it's music of the mind and soul, and it's just great stuff. Iron Maiden, the second I heard those twin guitar harmonies from them and the bass, I was like, holy crap, what is this? And the Eddie mascot too. Obviously, their artwork is so iconic and freaking awesome. Metallica was a huge one for me because it was the first time I heard what I would consider metal. Like Guns N' Roses and Iron Maiden definitely are, but in terms of heavier stuff as a kid, I heard Master of Puppets and I was like, what is this? Oh my God. And then the last one is pretty tough because I have two that I'd want to give it to that I just can't ever decide between. One is Thin Lizzy because they're just the most underrated rock band of all time and have fantastic individual unique records that change from album to album and just is amazing music. And Prince was a genius and taken too early, phenomenal musician and songwriter. Probably, man, it's a bold statement, but probably one of, if not the best songwriter of all time to be able to do as much as he did and probably still have like 30 records that are genius that no one's ever heard in a vault somewhere in Minnesota with his family.
Yeah, I've actually recently heard a lot of interesting stories about Prince. There was a couple of producers who've worked with Prince and explained his genius while also explaining the fact that at one point or another he was like kind of a selfish artist and didn't want them to go work with Michael Jackson. And they went and worked with Michael Jackson and he fired them. But then like a couple months later after the fact, he was just like, no. He wants you guys to come back. Like it was like a whole, like, cause he realized that these guys are really good. And if I'm not mistaken, it was Jimmy Jam, who's like a very, very famous producer and I can't remember the other producer, but they've done stuff for Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, a whole list of artists and stuff like that.
Babyface?
No, not Babyface. Close though. Close. I'm trying to remember who the other gentleman was. The name will hit me. You know, like you have it on the tip of your tongue and you're just like, yeah, I don't remember what it was. And then in the middle of this interview, I'll just scream it at the top of my lungs.
It was probably in that late 80s era because Prince probably was like, but I have 47 other records to make. And they're all...
but they were also talking, Michael. They were also talking about like him writing for Shalimar and Morris Day and the Time. There you go. Morris Day in the motherfucking time. So my podcast is about a journey into music, man. And you have a very interesting story, man. As you alluded to in the beginning, your father working as a radio DJ for so many, many years. So besides that, what else got you started into music? And then what made you realize this is where I need to be? That's how we bring it here.
First memory of living literally it was music. I've always been super into music and film ever since I was a little kid. That's all I remember liking and doing. I got a little drum kit and pad from my dad, and I was just an awful little drummer that couldn't do anything at first. I also had a guitar. It was a black one. It was a Charvel. It was like I'm the cheaper end because kids break shit all the time. This is when I was like 6. And I didn't really do anything with that. I still tried to play on my drum pad and bang on things because that's what I was attracted to at first. But around 12 or 13, my mother had an acoustic guitar that my dad gave her, and I started bumbling around with that, and eventually started to take lessons in my hometown in Stratford to play guitar and actually figure out what I'm doing. And it just, after about a year and a half, 2 years, it got to the point where, I learned pretty much all I was going to learn from the guy. And I remember a direct quote was, "I will never teach you anything below drop D." and would refuse to show me stuff, even like Metallica songs. So I was like, well, screw this. And then, the internet comes around. Well, I'm not that old. The internet was around, but, the mass use of the internet came around, and I figured out tabs, and I was like, oh, tabs are a thing. Figured it out, and I would start to learn albums, and I'd figure out how to play solos because you could see note by note, how to kind of put things together and then piece by piece. And I just started playing guitar all the time in my room around like working and school and stuff in high school. So I started writing like my own songs and just kind of kept them. Like I'd write something and I would just keep it to myself and not show anybody because I was, shy about that stuff. And then I met, my lifelong best friend Chris in late high school, and he was like a year behind me, 2 years, and we hit it off. And within a year, we were in like a punk band with each other through a mutual friend. We didn't really like pop punk, but we were like, hey, we get to play guitar, and that's cool. It's two guitars, and but in our we just bonded over loving metal. Like all the old school stuff. And he and I, band Demi Borgir, I thought I was like the only person on the planet at the time that knew who they were, like in America, like as a kid. And then he started playing. I was like, Demi? He's like, yeah, dude. I'm like, whoa. So my mind was like freaking blown. And, then you go in your late teens to like all the more, more like commercial or like more well-known stuff starts being less cool just because you're like, ooh, I'm edgy, I'm a teenager, and I've discovered Mayhem and Dark Throne and all these bands I shouldn't be listening to. And I've Lamb of God before they when they had like New American Gospel and stuff. So, we started writing stuff just together on the side for about 6 months. And then the guy kind of was a little bit of an asshole and lazy. So we were just like, yeah, I think we're out of here. Let's do our own thing, man. Let's do a metal band. And we've been The Shape ever since. And that was about 2005.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and just I think that's like an awesome, it seems like you went through a few things before you found what you liked, and then you found a mutual friend who, you guys kind of bonded over those things. It was kind of the same thing with me in high school, where I was kind of like anything. Literally, the summer of '99 was my exploration into, I would say, radio metal, if you will. And it was because I got grounded because I had really, really bad grades, 8th grade. But somehow I managed to pass. I don't remember how, but I had bad grades, and my mom was just like, "You're not going anywhere this summer." It wasn't like I was going anywhere any summer. So where I used to stay out with my grandfather, he used to have like this flat roof that you could just like walk out onto. And I would do dumb shit. So I would just hang off the edge of that roof and just listen to I think it was 102.1 here in Springfield. Back in the day when they used to just play metal, everything from like System to Slipknot, to Biscuit and stuff like that. And that's just kind of where my journey started in that. So I completely feel you when you're like discovering bands and then you find someone in your school, because I went to a predominantly all Black and Hispanic school, being Hispanic myself. And someone's like, "Oh man, that's a sweet Slipknot shirt." And I was just like, wait, what? You had this eye-opening moment, and then you just kind of bond over that. So you've already started going into my next question, which, we're talking about the formation of The Shape. You said around 2005 with you and Chris, man. That being said, you guys have been together for 15 fucking years, man. How do you find
16 actually now?
Well, 16 now. How do you guys find ways to keep creating together? Because I mean, shit, you guys have been together longer than some marriages.
It feels like a marriage sometimes, but we like you're best friends, but then sometimes you have those arguments and you're like, well, fuck you. 2 days later, you're like, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, bro. It's a good question, because like the first, like we've been writing together for, I'd say 17 years. First year was stuff that we we were like kind of trying to appease other people. So we were like, okay, it can't be that's too heavy. You can't do that. Or that's too pretty. That's too this. So we had to kind of just be like, all right, well, what can we give this dude, for material to sing over that, he's into? Like, what kind of punk do you like? And he and I like love punk too. So like he loved Bad Religion, and so do I. Earlier Green Day stuff, Operation Ivy, The Offspring, like early, Ixnay on the Hombre, Smash, Ignition, all that stuff at the time. And so we were like, oh, if we're going to do punk stuff, we want to do that. And the other guy was like, well, we like more like Newfound Glory and what's that other, Good Charlotte and stuff. And I'm like, all right, I guess. And, not to shit on them. It's just not my cup of tea. And
to each his own.
It wasn't really Chris's either. So there was only so much we could do before. Like, I think the last thing with that was that he had us over to quote practice and write, and the dude left the room to go party while we came up with stuff. And then we were like about an hour and change in, we were just like, because we saw it fun writing and everything. We were like, wait, what the fuck? Like, no, let's go. I'm gonna go have a drink. Fuck this. And like we were like, just we came up with something that we took to the Shape, and we were just like, let's keep that. Let's not show that to him. That's too good. And like, I'm still, buddies long distance with this other guy. It's not like he's a bad person. It just, it's just, wasn't the right fit for anybody.
Yeah, different interest, man.
So then the first year of writing Shape stuff was more like, okay, there's so much metal we like, and there's so much hard rock and stuff that we dig, let's just explore like what we like to do and what we sound good playing as. And one thing was, we played in all different tunings, so we could play in standard, half step down, D. We were used to that, but then a lot of bands started using C standard, the CGC FAD, so we got used to that. And then one day, one of my favorite all-time bands is a band called 40 Below Summer, which is a pretty underrated band from that era. Yeah, I love that band. Max is an awesome dude. Great killer band to me, always will be. Not everybody's cup of tea, but they're super unique. Sure. And me and Chris love that band. And one day he actually, before I showed up to practice one day with him, he tried learning a song that we really dug and found out that it was in open C tuning. And then also at the time, Strapping Young Lad and Devin Townsend were using that. And we were early fans of them from their first few records, because that's about what they had out at the time. And this was before like the New Black and Alien, or Alien was just about to come out. And so we were just like, whoa, the things you could do in this tuning are insane. Like you could shred what would be all across the board, basically just by going up and down and moving your fingers like left and right, like slightly. So you can do these crazy things that you just can't do on other, like a standard tuning or a straight C, which is basically standard, just drop down. So a lot of it was finding that, and that was our voice. We were like, okay, this is cool. We can do all these wacky harmonies with it. And we figured out how to solo in it very specifically, because it's a hard tuning to do that in. So once we did that, we just started cranking out songs. That was like the waterfall faucet to go do it. First record we ever did took like 3 years, because we recorded it once, all analog, all like in separate stations in the house that we were in, because it was a home studio with an actual producer, but just in his big ass house. And wasn't the best quality. It came out like a 70s record, but modern and like spacey stoner. It's a very weird record that we pulled from being online, but are going to put back out, available probably next year or the year after, because we remixed and remastered it to sound a little bit better. Okay. But that was an awesome process, but we had to re-record the whole thing 4 or 5 times because we had, the first one was straight to the analog board, pillows over the amplifiers and stuff to block out noise, like really old school, like 70s, which was dope because we never got that chance again to do that. So it was like the end of that for bands because every thing started becoming super computerized. Yeah. So producer came to us, said, hey, let's do this straight to, Cubase and Pro Tools and see what happens. Let's redo it all. So we redid it again. Then the computer crashed completely. Dude didn't have a backup, had to record it again. Awesome. Then there was a flood, had to record it again.
Oh, God damn. That is crazy.
Yeah, so it was 4 times. And the craziest part is that, and the wackiest part of the story for that record, it's called The Last Great Awakening, is that we had written by that point in time, I want to say 25 to 30 songs. Wow. So we had a metal record, but then we also, because we would just be there all the time, and we had to deal with the producer said that, hey, I'm not like a label producer. It's at my house. I love producing kids. We were in our bassist was 16 turning 17 and like we were 20 at that point, 19, 20. So we would be writing all the time. So in downtime, we would pick up acoustic guitars and write stuff, or we would be having a bonfire after, or like if our bassist was playing bass and me and Chris were just outside, like having a beer on the deck or something, we would just jam around with stuff. And so we wrote a bunch of other songs that didn't fit the vibe that we just kept around till now. And just how you keep things fresh, to your point, we actually just took all those, revamped them, and cut the ones that were weaker, made brand new ones, and it's going to be another record we already recorded that's going to come out next year after the one we're dropping this year. So sometimes you got to delve back into your past to make things fresh again, and it absolutely is the freshest thing we've ever done. It was like a lifesaver. It was awesome. But overall, just quick from album to album, we had that first album that was just weird. It was like alternative metal is the best thing. Alternative progressive metal is the best thing I could call it. With like it's spacey stoner ambient kind of stuff.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely got a different vibe from the last 2 records. Because you listen to it, you can definitely tell the inspiration of the time. You can definitely see some inspiration of the time and stuff like that. I got so many different artists I feel like you guys pulled from. I could definitely see the Lamb of God inspiration there, even vocally. I can see that,
Yep. So that in totality, our second one, we had then gotten our original drummer, Joe Dahlmeyer, had we have somewhat Spinal Tap story when it comes to members. This is more so guitarists than drummers, but our drummer had a weird bone disease where his bones grew into the cartilage of his feet. So he had to get foot surgery on both, or ankle surgery on both feet twice, and he kept up as long as he could, but when the record was done, he couldn't play drums anymore.
Wow.
So like it wasn't a bad parting. It was just, we were sad because the guy was great, but it led to our second drummer who was with us all the way up until the pandemic, Pete Smith. And when he came in, the band kind of changed a little bit. Chris went off to finish school, so he was out for a couple of years, but we took a lot of time to write it. We had a guitar player, Anthony Lawrence, that came in that was pretty had a lot of flair to what he was doing. He introduced us to playing with 7 strings, even in the same tuning, which was cool because you had your G tuning, which made it extra low. And all that led to like a bunch of people came and go through that time, kind of session style. So me and Pete were the ones that ended up recording the album. I played every instrument but the drums and split the keyboards with Pete. And we were like, what can we do to make this completely stand out from the last record? What can we do differently to kind of, give some fresh blood while having, 3-4 years between a record? So we made a really long progressive metal album that's super death metal-y called The Impurity. But it still has like the catchy elements, because that's the one thing we always wanted to do. And that's the one thing my dad taught me, was that everything has to have, it has to have a hook. If you don't have a hook, no matter how tough your metal is, no matter how brutal it is, no matter whatever it is, there's always a hook. I don't care if it's Nile, I don't care if it's Dying Fetus, all the way up to a Limp Bizkit. They all will have, whether it's a guitar hook, a lead guitar melody, a chorus that's catchy, even if it's growled. People can bullshit all they want. There's always something there that does that. The only bands that don't try to do that are bands that are strictly progressive, that are trying to not in any way do any kind of standard songwriting format. We went out of our way to like stretch the limits of what we could do playing wise. That probably has, up until this record, that probably has my craziest guitar work ever on that album. I went nuts on it just because that's what we were going for. Yeah. But then at the end, Chris ended up, by that time he was done. So he came back in and filled out the rest of the record with us. So,
so just to transition a little bit, as I understand and have read in some of your lyrics, a big inspiration seems to be horror. So let's talk about that. What about horror inspires you?
What about horror inspires me? I think the fantastical elements of a lot of it, but more so internally and intellectually. I like to write about it. How do I say this? For personal survival and how fear can motivate people to do certain things, and how fear brings out the best and the worst in people, and also how it affects people as a group versus the individual. But also they're good metaphors to be able to mask, I like to write in layers. So I'll have something that you can take as a story, but it's very carefully crafted that you could, an intelligent enough person, your everyday person, can look in and get a message away from that. And then underneath that at the bottom is what it means to me. So if it's a song that's personal, I know what I'm talking about directly, but I make it vague enough, or not vague enough, but I make it impersonal enough in how I phrase things so that you can get a universal message out of it. On your own. But then if you're paying attention and you're looking at little clues, you could probably figure out if I'm talking about a movie, or have just like, I think of that stuff as like art decoration on top of it. You know what I mean? But the original root point of a song will come from sometimes a movie that provokes a thought in my head about the message, and then I'll kind of go backward from that, if that makes sense.
No, for sure, man. And me and my wife are just huge into horror. She likes her, spooky apparition witch type stuff. Me, I'm more of like the blood and guts. I want to see, some pure violence. I'm the type of movie that my perfect horror movie is No One Survives. Those are my favorite horror movies. I love those movies. They just make me feel good. I don't know why. But in speaking with horror, what are actually some of your favorite horror movies?
I literally had this discussion yesterday at the eye doctor's. The lady that was like doing my new I had like my pupils dilated. So I was like, I can't fucking see shit. like in front of me, but I could see far away. She was like helping me pick out glasses, and she's like, I love your tattoos. I gotta ask, I'm a big horror fan, so like, you know, what made you want to get those? And you know, we were just bullshitting, and she was like, what's your top 5? And I'm like, ugh. So I could give you my top 5 easily. My number 1 is Alien.
Okay.
I'm in love with the Beast and the xenomorph and like Giger's or Geiger's creation. And the look of it was something that blew my mind as a kid and still does today. I haven't seen art that different and cool, at least in the dark arena of art, ever. I haven't seen an artist that matches.
And what's interesting about that movie is not only the creature is the horror, the fact that you're in space is also the horror, because there's really nowhere for you to go. You're only on this ship. So it's just, that was like the way that you're saying that, it makes total sense to me, because there's 2 elements of horror there. There's the fact that where can you really go and what is it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the tagline was very appropriate. In space, no one can hear you scream.
For sure.
And what I love about that movie is Ridley Scott's one of my favorite directors. He's not a typical horror director.
Okay, yeah.
Because he doesn't have anything horror in his filmography of like 35 movies or so, except for the alien-related ones and Legend, I guess, which I loved as a kid too, with Tim Curry playing Darkness and Tom Cruise. But with Alien, it was just genius writing. It was like 10 Little Indians by Agatha Christie, but on a spaceship, you know, and they made it, you know, realistic. You know, what if, you know, there's the glorious looking like Star Wars kind of ships, but what if it were more realistic and like truckers in space? But just the idea that there is an unkillable thing, you don't know what it is, you're lost, you are stuck limited out space. In space.
Limited space. Where can you really hide?
There's a lot of different themes in there that are just like I can watch that like any time of the week. Another one is the original Nightmare on Elm Street. All these are ones that stick with me because they still scare me as an adult in ways. So like a Nightmare on Elm Street, when I was a kid, you're afraid of the actual Freddy Krueger, the monster, you know, he's going to get you under your bed, you know, if you watch that when you're a little kid. But when you're an adult, it's terrifying, because what if, you know, you dying in your sleep, you could die at any point in time. What if you could be killed in your sleep? You know, I remember hearing and reading a ton on that film where Wes Craven had said that his inspiration was from 2 different things. One, there was a child molester guy out in, I believe it was San Francisco or San Diego, out around where Wes Craven lived. And, you know, he had just had a kid, so he was concerned about it. So he was following him. And then the other one was that somewhere in Asia, kids were actually dying in their sleep. And it was, there's like an actual term for the disease, or not disease, but like whatever the syndrome is. But kids were complaining of like a samurai style, or like a warrior stalking and hunting them in their sleep. So like one particular case of a kid that like didn't sleep for like 11 days straight that they were monitoring did a lot of the stuff that's in the film. So like the coffee maker in the closet, you know, hiding that, and like all the little creative things he did, the caffeine pills to stay awake, and how his parents were with him, translated into the film. He literally just took those and kind of combined it and said, okay, well, the idea of dying in your sleep, that would terrify anybody. So, you know, underneath that all, it's a big like, metaphor for very bad sleep paralysis, which if you haven't experienced is pretty terrifying. So, you know, that's The Shining. It's a masterpiece. That's another one. It's my wife's favorite. The villain is alcohol. The villain is alcoholism, you know, and mental illness. And, you know, is it ghosts? Is it really ghosts? Or is it just, you know, this guy slowly went insane because, you know, of an actual disease a lot of people have in the country that they do to themselves. and or genetic things that they're born with that they may not know they have. So the way Kubrick shot that is so trippy, of course, that it kind of, warps a little bit of the book, but on the same end, it's fantastic. The Thing is another one that,
one of my favorites.
That one's more just, it's similar to Alien and kind of like the setup of, the isolation and things. Yeah. But it was just so cool to be.
And I mean, it's one of those movies that truly has probably the best ending because you don't know. You really don't know, even though there's, you could be in on the internet and read speculation for years worth of, it's this one, it's that way, it's this way, it's that way. You know what I'm saying? But that one has like one of my favorite endings because it's just like, you don't know who or what actually survives,
Carpenter came out and confirmed in something that I read not too long ago that neither of them were the Thing. So I was like, that's the best. That's the best.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause there's a lot of speculation that, what's the black gentleman's name that plays opposite?
Childs.
Yes. Childs. Yes. That Childs was the Thing. So yeah. There was so much. Yeah.
I get why he's saying that though, because it's kind of like the perfect thing that, they lost all ability to trust each other at all whatsoever, that instead of trying to survive and leave, they just watched each other until they thought help would arrive.
Oh, actually, have you ever heard the conspiracy theory that Child's character is very similar to another John Carpenter movie character, which played by the same actor, They Live, with Roddy Piper.
I fucking love They Live.
Yes. Yeah. There's a theory that, and that's another theory that fed into the fact that Childs was the Thing because they're trying to equate it to the same character. They're trying to create a parallel between the two.
I did not hear that, but that's wild.
Yeah, the internet. It's the internet. The internet's all over crazy. And I think you got one more left for me on to tell me, horror movie wise.
So it's the one that's like all the other ones I could watch at any time of the day, any day of the week. The last one I can't, and it's like, when I'm feeling, it's The Exorcist.
Okay.
And so I was raised Catholic, walked away from it. Am a loose Satanist with the Satanic Temple, but it doesn't scare me because I don't believe in like a big devil or demons or things like that. What scares me is that for people that have had cases of possession like that, it's attributed to mental health and what the brain can do to itself and cause you to, speak in voices that are so far removed from what you naturally sound like, can contort your body, can speak backwards or in pig Latin or do all these weird things. Now, I don't discount that they're, like say a demon, for example, what people would call a demon. Matter and energy, cannot be created nor destroyed. So to me, if you die and you're a super negative, bad person or aura, your essence may stick around where that happened or something. We don't know the answers, but things like that could be cause for like loose disturbances that are kind of creepy. But do we actually know that? Could there be demons in another an actual heaven or hell? There's no confirmation. I don't believe in it, but it's kind of like never say never because you never know.
Exactly.
But just the idea that even like say that it 100% isn't true, that your brain is that powerful to be able to do things like that to you when you're depressed or going through a psychosis, stress, life can do things like that is fucking terrifying to me. When I was a kid, it was all about, what scared me about it was, the Reagan, the puke, the voice still gets me. The voice is one. And the fact that was a woman that just drank Jack Daniels and like ate a lot of meat and smoked cigarettes doing that voice.
Yeah.
When I found that out, I was like, holy shit, that woman scared me for life. But that one, and for some people, they're deathly terrified, can't watch that movie, and others are just like, they laugh at it, which is weird.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, that movie is terrifying to me, man.
So like in talking about like the horror that you do seem to enjoy, I definitely love going back and watching those older movies and trying to understand some of the horror that is actually involved with it, like going back and watch Bela Lugosi's, Dracula, and finding out what about that character was so creepy to people at that time. Even characters like, you go back to Count Olaf and Nosferatu, where you're trying to understand the actual legitimate horror, which is a great movie. And if you've seen that movie before, I'd suggest watching. Oh my God, I'm gonna forget it. There was another movie where they talk about it's a hypothetical situation that what if the Nosferatu vampire was actually like a real vampire? Yeah,
and Nicolas Cage made it. It's called Shadow of the Vampire. Willem Dafoe's in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
such
awesome.
Such a fucking amazing movie, and the fact that like they took that concept. I love stuff like that where you take something and kind of expound upon it, which was like absolutely amazing. So in hearing some of your horror movies, it sounds like you like the older school stuff. Is there anything new school horror wise that you're like super into?
Oh, I'm a sponge. I'm 100%. I'm like, I got Shudder on lock, and a few other horror channels. Yep. I'll watch anything and everything that looks good. Or shitty on purpose. I'll watch like my top 5. See, I put them because those are all great films.
Yeah, of course.
That were excellently written, excellently directed, Oscar nominated or close, on some of them. But outside of that, oh my God, I enjoy so much. I love like The Reanimator and fantastic movie. That and The Bride of the Reanimator, the third one beyond Reanimator, not so much. From Beyond, a lot of 80s. I love 80s horror movies, but today there's a lot of great stuff, man. Hereditary was one of the most original and scary films I've seen, or at least disturbing films in a non what do you call it? Like it didn't feel like dirty, like it was abusing somebody, right? Like a film, like a Serbian film, I can watch and be like, oh, that's gory, that's cool, but it like grosses me out in a way that's like, yeah, I kind of don't want to watch that. I don't need to see things happen to kids.
So I was about to say, I'm assuming Terrifier is not in your wheelhouse.
I actually haven't seen that. That's one that I'm kind of disappointed I haven't seen yet.
My God. Okay, so right now we just have to have a conversation. I have to just go off from the interview.
All right.
Terrifier is a movie that if you have an issue with violence in general, then this will probably not be the movie for you. But if you are a fan of just it's the perfect movie to me in my mind. It just brings to the fact that there's no matter where we go in life, there's always that one person that you're just like, something about this guy, I just don't fucking like it. I don't fucking like it. I don't like him. I don't like her, or whatever it is. And this movie is that pure definition. And the gentleman who plays Art the Clown is, I guess he was like a mime / stage actor, which is awesome because he has absolutely no lines in this movie, but yet just at every moment is creepy, scary, horrifying, and slightly funny. Like, just, I think everything you need in what you call making like an iconic killer, if you will, or someone who you're just like, this guy's going to be known because he just does things completely different. And then at the end of the movie just goes left on your ass and you're just like, whoa, I was not ready for that. You know what I'm saying? So I would suggest watching it. And then I would also suggest preparing yourself for some of the scenes, because there is a scene in particular that was so bad that certain movie productions did not want to take this movie on because of the scene. And the guy who directed this movie fought every piece just to have this one particular scene. And I'm not going to tell you what it is, because when you watch it, you will automatically know what scene I'm talking about. It's that just, oh man.
On stuff like that was a movie I wanted to see, but every time I look around on streaming stuff, I can't find it. And then you do the thing where you're like, oh, well, I wonder what else is on here. And then you scroll for 30 minutes and then you forget what you were looking for. It's one of those where I haven't, but I'll make it a priority. In terms of bloody stuff, it's only a few I love bloody, gory, evisceration stuff too. Love it. I love Cannibal Holocaust, Cannibal Ferox, all those. I'm a huge Dario Argento fan.
Yes. Oh my God. Can we? Oh my God. Dario Argento is just one of my favorites because his thing was making it look so real, making it look. Yep. Granted, some of his movies have some of the most convoluted plot lines, have so many plot holes, but the level of gore that man brought to particular movies was just astounding. Demons 2, the movie that they tried to call Demons 3, but wasn't Demons 3, The Church, that was an amazing movie. And just so many things. I mean, Italian horror in general is just, it's something else.
Mario Bava is the OG master. Black Sunday,
yes,
Black Sabbath, so many good shit from him. There's so much from him. Then go ahead.
No, and for me personally, if there's any, I guess the only horror villain I say I would like that's mainstream is just Friday the 13th, and 13 being just a pivotal number in my life. I mean, me and my wife were married on a Friday the 13th. I have 13 tattooed on me. I am just the hugest Jason Voorhees fan, and it's all because of Kane Hodder, because he just was the antithesis of what I wanted in just a bad guy. And that's, I mean, I'm not going to compare the gentleman who plays Art the Clown in the Terrifier series, but the physicality without saying words is what stuck with me. I remember Jason Lives just being that movie that just fucking everything about it was just terrifying, because I think that was one of the first movies I actually saw when it came to Friday the 13th. And then obviously, you go back in the beginning in the original Friday the 13th of just perspective was the fucking scariest thing ever. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't necessarily you were worried about the killer and whatnot. And then, so many people, Jason obviously has become the most iconic character about that, but so many people not realizing that that wasn't the killer in the beginning. You know what I'm saying? And, I love that movie series for so many different things and so many different directions it goes. Even movies like Jason Goes to Hell, I actually kind of enjoy. I know a lot of people are like, but he's not really in the movie. And I actually really
with Friday the 13th. Yeah. They all have this distinct fields, right? So the first one is classic.
Of course.
The second one, they have that famous rumor that, or myth or whatever, that it's actually his dad, Elias, and not Jason, and you only see Jason from the third one onward. The third one is iconic because he gets the mask. The fourth one is, Tommy, right?
Of course.
Yep. The fifth one, Tommy again, but you get the doppelganger, Jason. Then finally,
the blue mask,
the paramedic. Then finally, you get, okay, so we tried to drag this out. Now we have to reanimate the corpse. So he's dead and back from then on. That one is fantastic. Number 7 is probably my favorite behind the first one, the one with the telekinesis. And the father in the lake. It's campy, but it's great. 8 in Manhattan. There's the fight with the kid,
the mask pulling off with the punks. In Times Square. The
toxic waste. The boat scene where it's
which interestingly enough, that scene where he pulls off his mask is legitimately the only scene shot actually in New York.
Well, they they did the Times Square stuff all there.
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
But I
of
think
course,
they said they had. I think it was like they had only 2 or 3 days of shooting, because that's all they could afford for it.
So if you're a fan of Friday the 13th,
Huge,
I don't know I don't know if you know, but there is an exceptionally well done fan film called Never Hike Alone. If you have not seen it, it is free. It's on YouTube. I would suggest watching it. There's I think there's 30 minutes, but if I'm not mistaken, there's a special edition with the entire series, because it's called Never Hike Alone, and then it's Never Hike Alone in the Snow, which is a play off of the fact that there was an idea of having Jason murder in the snow. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they've still got to do that at some point.
Exactly. And the awesome thing too is they've got the actor who actually played Tommy in this series as well too. So not only is it a fan film, it actually has the same actor playing Tommy, who's playing Tommy, as well as the guy who played the deputy in the movies with Tommy. He's in the movie as well too, now as the chief of police. It's fucking fantastic. Awesome. Yeah. Never Hike Alone. Anybody who hasn't seen it, if you're a Friday the 13th fan, now I will say the gentleman who wrote and directed it also plays Jason. I will say you can definitely tell his performance is definitely heavily inspired by Kane Hodder. And then the other thing is I think he's maybe 5'11". You know what I'm saying? I think he's 5'11", but I think with perception, sound, story, I think he made a case at being either, if there's a reboot for a Jason movie, either being a liaison for that movie, or if not, being a writer to be a part of whatever reimagining they decide to do with Jason. You know, that's the thing with everything is, you know, we need a reimagine or a reboot or whatever. I definitely think if they're going to do something like this, they should reach out to this gentleman, because I think his name is Vincent Vincenzo or something like that. Very Italian name, but he's American. But like I said, Never Hike Alone in the Snow. Like I said, I think there's like a special edition. Fantastic practical effects, fantastic gore, and just great sound. And just I wasn't expecting, a friend of mine told me about it. I wasn't expecting to be as entertained and feel like I was watching something they probably should have done with that 2009 movie. You know what I'm saying?
I can watch that and like appreciate it as an alternate reality, but the fact that Jason runs is a pot farmer and has underground tunnels and shit and caged somebody up, I'm like, no, just no.
Oh, no. And that's the thing, man. Like I said, we could go on about Jason forever, but I'm going to leave on this point where Jason Voorhees for me is just one of those characters. Like I said, no lines, but everything is said. And, you know, like I said, Kane Hodder just brought that expression when he was just pissed off and you could see his chest just raising and swelling and just like, and it was just like, I don't know what's happening, but I know at this point I'm fucked. You know what I'm saying? I don't have a prayer in the world. I'm screwed right now at this point.
Oh, I feel stupid in not saying this, and a bunch of people are probably going to harangue me for it. But obviously, one of my favorite films is Halloween. That's where we get The Shape from.
Obviously, I would have to say, yeah.
It is a John Carpenter masterpiece. Yeah, so that is definitely way up there.
I've got a friend whose podcast, I don't think they're around anymore. I think you still listen to them, the Horror Junkies podcast. They did an entire month just off of John Carpenter movies, and just some of what you learn about what John Carpenter did for his movies. He just a love for horror that I don't think anybody really has shown too much on, except for whoever that guy is that wrote The Witch, the Midsommar movie, and the fucking Lighthouse. Holy shit. Have you seen those movies?
Oh, I love those movies. Those are the four that I would say are the modern like masterpieces that we've gotten recently.
Yeah, my wife's absolutely obsessed with Midsommar. She watches it on a regular basis, and my wife is definitely not one for the gore, but she's definitely for the psychological aspect of it.
Have you guys seen, or has she seen the 3 hours director's cut?
I have no clue, but I guess we're about to find out if she has.
Check it out. There's a lot more to like the ritual. There's a lot more to, in a couple instances, not to spoil it for anybody listening, so I won't, but there's a couple instances of, you know, when certain people disappear. in the evening time, you get to know a little more of what happens with them. Ooh. And a little more on a few other things that, didn't feel like they were too abrupt, but like adding them in doesn't hurt the film at all. It actually kind of, I don't mind a movie that's that long if it adds to it.
Adds exposition and things to it that you actually want to learn about and see and kind of try to figure out. See, and that's another thing I love about horror, man. There's so many different interpretations of horror from different aspects, and even the cheesy films. Like there was one we recently just watched that in the beginning I thought it was great. The monster was cool. You ever seen the movie Animal?
Oh yeah, dude, I love that movie.
Yeah. I love it because there's no exposition. There's no like, this monster's been around for millions of years. It was just like, no, this is a monster and it's exactly what it is. It's a fucking animal. It wants to eat and it's going to do exactly that. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the movie, towards the end of the movie, I'm just like, wait, you're telling me this sophisticated animal that's been outsmarting these people the whole time, the white girl with the big boobs escapes? You know what I'm saying? Like, and then she figures out running them over. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how to feel about that. You know what I'm saying?
There's a movie. There's actually, there's two movies that have a riff in this department that are a little better. One, have you seen a movie called Dark Was the Night?
No, it sounds familiar. I'm writing it down.
It's on one of the streaming services. I don't know if it's Netflix or if it's Amazon or whatever, but it's one that is streaming free through Prime, and it's a fantastic monster movie that does the same thing where you don't really know exactly what it is or what's going on, but it's vicious. And something is pushing the local community like closer and closer together to eliminate them. Great acting, lots of great character actors in it. And then the other one is the Wolf of The Wolf of something Hollow. Spring Hollow. Killer movie. I'm annoyed I haven't. I'm annoyed I'm like fucking up the title for you, but it's like the Wolf of not Sleepy Hollow, but like Spring Hollow or something like that. Killer movie along the same thing. All those I look back to like early 2000s and think of like Ginger Snaps.
Yes.
And Dog Soldiers, which is holy shit, that movie is fucking
That's
great.
Another movie that I feel like is super underrated when it comes to werewolf movies for sure.
Yeah.
And then Ginger Snaps. I mean, obviously not being a woman, not understanding that, the horror of just one, that movie was horror on multiple, like being a teenager, going through puberty, dealing with, the things that you do as a teenager. Oh, and by the way, you've been bitten by a wolf and your sister's turning into a fucking wolf. You know what I'm saying? So there are so many.
That reminded me of like a teenage version of a Cronenberg movie, but done as a werewolf film.
Yeah.
Which is why I love it, because there's so much body horror, but also personal human, things with women. Just reminded me of stuff like Rabid and
which makes me laugh because people talk about like Jennifer's Body as this classic thing, and it's just like this is like a discount version of Ginger Snaps, and I don't think people realize that.
I appreciate Jennifer's Body. I like Karen Kusama as a writer, director. She's great.
And granted, it's not a werewolf; it's a succubus, but still, they're very similar plot lines there.
They are, but like the humor in it, I dig how they balanced it. I think she did a good job of balancing the tones in that movie, which is a hard thing to do, with a film like that. But what the fuck? That movie with Elijah Wood, Horns, is kind of like a male.
I was going to say, is that Elijah Wood or Daniel Radcliffe?
Not my bad. It is Daniel Radcliffe.
No worries, man. No worries.
That film to me is like a different take on Jennifer's Body. It's like a male version of it.
Okay.
Not to say male versus female is better. I'm just saying the film itself is a better and unique style version of that.
Yeah.
But instead of like a friend relationship, it's a romantic relationship. But I would always, hey, if you've never seen Jennifer's Body and you're looking for something to watch for 90 minutes and you can't find anything, definitely not a bad choice to watch. It's fun. You know, is it holy shit classic? Like
exactly.
Hell no. But like, could you do worse? Oh God. Yeah, man.
Yeah. You could watch fucking, what was this movie the other night that me and my wife were watching something? Oh yeah. Last night we started watching this movie called The Resort on Hulu. And oh my God, the acting, that is rough. But we're going to finish watching it cause we're just those type of people. But, yeah. So, other than that, there's only one movie that I consider like it's horror, but it's not really horror. It's more, I would say horror comedy, but I'm going to tell you this right now. I will never watch it again. Tusk. Mm-hmm. Tusk. I will never watch Tusk again. That was too much for me. Too much.
I love Kevin Smith, but you know, between Red State, Tusk, and Yoga Hosers, I don't think
I forgot about that one.
I don't think he should ever attempt to do Red State's better than is the best of the three.
I don't know. But, Johnny Depp in disguise is pretty good. I'm sorry. I gotta go. Johnny Depp in disguise with a fake accent is pretty fucking awesome.
I mean, it is, but it doesn't hold up the whole movie, and it's just
it doesn't. It doesn't.
You know, when I think of Kevin Smith, everything through like outside of even Jersey Girls, like it's whatever, but like. You know, it's a family movie. If you got a family, you know, it's probably decent.
Tusk. I don't know who Tusk is for, but it ain't for me. It definitely ain't for my wife because we both.
Well, he has the Smodcast stuff, and it just came up as like one of those like, hey, crazy news from all over the world. Guy puts in an article, a rich guy will pay him X amount of money, like a ridiculous amount to dress up as, you know, the thing in the movie, a walrus for, you know, 1 hour a day, and he gets to live for free in like a mansion and get all this money. They made it into a horror movie where what if the guy actually physically made him into, you know, a walrus. Just too much. I don't know why. Weird. It sticks with me in a way that just makes me uncomfortable even thinking about it right now. Like, and once again, we've gone completely off of what we're talking about, but this is what I love, man. I love it, man. It just, you don't really get a lot of chance to talk with someone else who is into horror like I am, like my wife is and stuff like that. And like I said, you know, my wife she could have her own podcast about whatever horror movie she's into. She has a wider range of flavors of horror that she rather enjoys, you know, everything from The Shining to Frankenhooker. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
like,
dude, Frankenhooker's fucking awesome. Basket Case, that whole series is awesome.
Oh, just Basket Case alone for that guy in that time period and how little he had to make that work is just fantastic in itself.
I could be wrong, but I thought he was the dude that also made Frankenhooker. I could be wrong. I know he made Brain Dead, the same guy.
Yes.
And Frank, what is his name? Frank Henenlotter, I think is his name.
I think so.
I met him at a con a few years ago in Connecticut. He was the nicest dude.
Me and my wife have watched Frankenhooker quite a bit. We actually rather enjoy that one. And it's one of those movies. Yes, it is Frank Henenlotter. Yes, sir. That there's a lot of like, because it's so low budget and stuff like that for that time, and they have like such cult followings for those movies, you know, where the first two movies were pretty interesting, and then that third one just took a whole fucking turn. Yeah, man. If you can't tell, me and my wife have watched a lot of different series, a lot of different movies, man. And I remember one night, me and my wife did, I want to say we did 10, 11 hours of just watching Phantasm. Just from beginning to end, she was hooked Like even the one that came out in 2016, what was
Ravager,
Ravager, yeah, whatever it was. We were hooked from the beginning to the end, you know. And there was another movie that just recently did a callback to the boy. I'm trying to remember what it was. We just watched it recently, and I'm like, fuck, if that is not just a straight callback to fucking boy. Oh, love those movies. Anyways, man, let's get the train back on the tracks, man, and let's talk some more Shape music, man. As of a few weeks ago, man, you guys just released a music video for Invisible Wolves, which great story. Okay, all right, you're out here with your own directorial debut, and just great visuals and stuff like that. Now, so I pose this question to you based off of watching that video. So I'm assuming you guys had a hand in creating that. Yep. I'm assuming. All right. They come to you, whoever, insert Hollywood man, whatever. All right. They say, you've got an unlimited budget, man. We want you to find your director, and we want you to find your star. Who are you looking for in order to star in a horror movie or a horror movie / music video for you guys?
Man, well, it would depend on what we were looking to do, because I'm all about, you know, hire the right actor, no matter the money. You know, obviously, if money isn't a factor, but pick the right guy or girl, and pick the right person to help tell the story visually. Now, that said, man. Yep. That's this show right here. If you're saying movies in general, and I don't have, I have no budget. I mean, Quentin Tarantino or Martin Scorsese. But if we're talking horror, and we're sticking in that, it's so hard for me not pulling the John Carpenter card, because he's so brilliant. But last thing he did was The Ward, and that wasn't that great. I'd have to make sure the magic was still there. So I would go with my other favorite, David Cronenberg, or Ridley Scott. David Cronenberg or Ridley Scott. David Cronenberg can tell the story right, but Ridley is just an amazing visual guy. He knows how to work that camera to give you the most beautiful thing you will ever see. So if it is a visual thing, Ridley Scott. If it is a story and how to cut everything together, David Cronenberg. For actor or actress, Christian Bale. He is a warped motherfucker that will do anything to. If you've seen The Machinist, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. You know what's actually interesting that you say Christian Bale? And this is going to sound really stupid, but I had this thought one time that what if they had just convinced Christian Bale to play Joker in the third movie? Because I feel like he could have pulled it off. It just would have been an interesting movie. I would have said just the level that guy is willing to go to for movies. I would have been like, hell, I think he could do both. You know actually, no, that is true. And that would have been awesome. But I will say this instead. I'm gonna scratch any ambiguity out of it, and I'm gonna say David Cronenberg and Nicolas fucking Cage. Oh my God, because Nicolas Cage is on a fucking roll right now. Can we? Oh my God, we could be talking about horror for the rest of the day, because the things that Nicolas Cage is doing, and I don't know who Nicolas Cage owes money to. Holy fuck! Yes, Mandy. Yeah, Willy's Wonderland. I loved. Yep, Willy's Wonderland. And then have you seen the trailer for this Pig movie? Yes. Oh my God, I watched it. It is great. Oh yes, I definitely have to watch it. You could rent it for like $5, I think, on Amazon. Like $5 or $10. Yeah. Oh, definitely gonna figure out what we're watching tonight. Because me and my wife last. Yeah. He also did that really fun one. I think it's called Mom and Dad. Oh yeah, that was a good one too. God damn, Nicolas Cage, you fucking bastard. No, I totally get where you're coming from. If it was me personally, I would have just so many things going on. First of all, John Carpenter would be composing the music. That would be mine.
Director wise,
you didn't give me a composer. If it's a composer, it's definitely John Carpenter.
Exactly.
It's definitely John Carpenter. I will tell you this: I love John Carpenter so much, and we do as a band musically. That some of the things we do, we get inspiration from his like melody lines. We absolutely get inspiration from him musically, aside from just ideas for films. I will listen on Spotify to
of course,
his soundtracks. I'll listen to Lost Themes 1, 2, and then there's a newer one that came out.
I'd have to say one of my favorite soundtracks is definitely the Fog soundtrack. Definitely a great inspiration, creepy feel, something to set a mood for anything horror related.
That and Escape Me from New York is another great one. Bum, ba-da-bum, bum, bum, da-da-da-da, da-da.
But director I would choose, and I think he doesn't get a lot of credit, Toby Hooper, man. I fucking love him.
Well, he's dead.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, if fishes were wishes and we all had $1 million, you know what I'm saying?
Well, we're stretching it here. I didn't know.
Yeah, exactly. We're stretching. Yeah. We're pulling out of our ass. But yeah, you know, I mean, I would love just some of what he did, especially the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series. Just you know, some of the things he did outside of that too, as well, that just were downright just fucking
Poltergeist.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah, I forgot that. God damn. How did I forget that? But anyways, man. Yeah, I don't know. I just, for whatever reason, I just felt like, you know, that would be a good question to ask, man, because I feel like, you know, you being a horror nut like me, you know, you got an idea of what you like. And it sounded like you gave me an answer both ways, horror story wise. And that's what's up, man.
Well, my thinking with those two specifically is that they are both willing to do and try and do absolutely anything and everything.
Oh yeah,
ultra artistically and batshit crazy out of your mind. But both also have that balance of we are artists that can make wonderful. Like if you look at Nicolas Cage too, he can all part of that answer is that he's also done adaptation, Leaving Las Vegas, you know, Moonstruck. What else? He's just done a ton of also great Wind Talkers, Face Off. Like he's done a lot of.
Oh my God, Face Off is a low key underrated movie. I feel like it's given more respect.
Raising Arizona with the Coen brothers. He's just got so much range,
yeah.
But he also has that fucking crazy and has done enough horror and awesome shit where it's like and he's like I look at it like a utility tool. If we were like, hey, we want you to be really serious and do this, but then at the end we need you to go fucking ballistic. And this is what we're thinking. Like he can pull it all off. And Cronenberg is a master of fucked up shots with the camera, but also a great storyteller where in a lot of his movies, you might have 8 minutes go by. There's no dialogue whatsoever. It's all music and like tracking shots. So that was the other thought behind that. I think I'm surprised they haven't worked together because it just sounds such a natural fit.
Yeah, but also at the same time, it sounds like there'd probably be some egos involved in there. But my last part to this amazing question I've come up out of my ass with is who is your makeup director or a special effects director, and why is it Tom Savini?
I was just gonna say Tom Savini.
I was gonna say, why is it Tom Savini?
He is the fucking master.
Yes.
That would have, whether you said that or not, that would have been my answer 100%. If he couldn't or was too old, I know he did the Fiend stuff, so I know he's still doing stuff. I don't hear a lot about films he does so much. I know he teaches out in Pennsylvania, but like he has his own school for effects people that he's very heavily into. But if not him, then I would say Greg Nicotero, because I think he's the next best out of the bunch.
Yeah, for sure, man. And like I said, we kept going off the tracks and we went a little further off the tracks, but back to bringing it back.
I'm like you, man. I can talk horror. I can have this conversation.
Literally. So just kind of get closer to wrapping things up a little bit more. Like I said, you guys just recently released a new music video for the song Invisible Wolves, which was absolutely amazing. The song kicks ass. But you guys are announcing a new single coming out soon. City of Ghost, man. Talk to me a little bit about City of Ghost, what people can expect. And there's a music video coming with it as well.
Yeah, Cities of Ghosts. Basically, we actually just yesterday, I don't know if you probably didn't get a chance to see it, but we actually announced the title of our record that these songs come from. It's called In the Age of Doom and Fear. Mm-hmm. And we're going to early release it with a show, like a road show kind of deal, starting in Connecticut on October 15th. And then October 16th, we're going to be at Fete Music Hall in Providence, Rhode Island, and we'll have the other dates available soon. That's going to run on the weekends through the first week of November. So we'll be out on the road in all different states doing that. But yeah, Invisible Wolves, Dr. Plague, and Parasomniac, the previous three, and this new one, Cities of Ghosts, are all on that record. Got 14 tracks, and we'll have all that info up announced. I think either when this airs or the week after when we drop City of Ghosts. City of Ghosts itself, just a little bit of background, the whole entire record, the world stopped and we were already going to write a record anyway. And then, everything changed, right? Yep.
For everyone.
So everything on this record has to deal with an aspect of a feeling or a theme that came from that period of, isolation and, unknown and just, violence and all this crazy shit that was going on primarily between early April and I want to say August was when we wrapped it up to mix and master everything down. So it's something that built up over time, and Cities of Ghosts in particular was or is about how it was when we were locked down and we couldn't really go anywhere out in public. Like I would sneak over to Chris's and he'd be the only guy I see or only person I saw because I trusted him and he wasn't going anywhere there outside of my family at home. And it was just, seeing people literally look like I'll never forget driving through New Haven and just seeing like row after row of people just looking out their windows and stuff. So there's certain lines in that song that are just very like direct and actual reality. There's no metaphor there. It's just, I walk the streets. It's never felt so lonely, like going for a walk and seeing nobody around, feeling like the area you're in is lifeless and, just like you would see in a post-apocalyptic movie. You don't see people out on the streets that early on. This was like May or June. It was just like a really weird time frame. And it's a positive song. It's about, seeing everything come back, but not just to how it is right now, but to how eventually, it will be one day, without masks on, with everybody safe. It's a pretty uplifting tune. And the video is incredible. The same director and producer that we wrote and worked on Invisible Wolves with is doing it here. William Hall, great dude. He has a team called Reel, REEL 58. And the performance footage section is something I've never seen before and blew my mind. You'll know when you see it. And then there's a little side story going on, that hits very close to what the lyrics are saying that I won't spoil, but it's a little bit, it's less angry than the other three. It's probably the most rock radio friendly. We're sending it out to radio the same day, August 27th, radio video, single drop. We hope people can, get some solace out of that, have something, a little more upbeat. The record's heavy, the record's angry. There's a lot of emotion and melody in it, but this one is like silver lining of it that, we wanted people to have some fun with and keep their head up.
Yeah, for sure, man. And you're just using the real life horror.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
for real.
I look at it like every I look at it, they're all different horror entries, different, feels, just like a director would look at, okay, I made a vampire film. I made a werewolf film. I made this ghost film. This one's, more in the like psychological and reflective realm of stuff. Mm-hmm. This is our PG-13 one.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that, man.
It's a great song. I'm super proud of it. There's a lot of excellent, one of my favorite hooks ever that we've done. So I'm really psyched for people to see this, especially the video. The video has some awesome special effects that I've not seen done.
Cool.
On a performance ever. So
that's what's up, man. And Brian, man, I just want to say thank you, man, for coming on today, man. I'm greatly appreciative of you having this conversation. I'm sure people are going to love the horror section of this, who's a horror fan. So I'm sure there'll be some comments. There's some bullshit said to me about why we didn't list XYZ movie. We just talking about movies that stick out to us, man. But before we get out of here, man, I'm going to give them the socials, man. You can check these guys out on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Shape Rocks. You can check their Bandcamp out, theshaperocks.bandcamp.com, as well as check their YouTube out, The Shape Official. Is there anything else you'd like to plug with me, Brian?
We're on Spotify. We're on Apple. We're on Pandora. I think it's like 500 different outlets you can catch us on. Thanks for having me, man.
Of course, man.
Everybody, if you're in Connecticut or Rhode Island, come check us out on October 15th at the Cellar on Treadwell with Mourn the Light, When the Deadbolt Breaks, Condition Zero, and Dream of Sepia. We're going to have costume contest. It's going to be a big party. We haven't played in what'll be 19 months. So, it's going to be kind of emotional for us, but, we have some other show things we can't talk about that other people are going to talk about. So I'll let that be. But I think by the time that this airs, they should be out there, but I don't want to fuck up and
don't worry, man. We'll let them know. We'll give it a share and make sure everybody knows where to find you guys. But thank you. Go ahead. One
last thing. My bad. October 29th, The Age of Doom and Fear. That's when it's coming out. So
woo! All right, check that out.
If you want it early, come to one of our shows before then, especially Connecticut or Rhode Island.
Yes, sir, man. Thank you once again, Brian, for coming on, man. It was a pleasure having you on, brother, and I hope you have a good day, man.
Dude, this was so much fun. I'd love to come back sometime down the line.
Let's do it again, baby.
Talk horror all day, dude.
Yes, sir. All right, man. Thanks.
Later, man.